Okay, we are live here, and we're with Richie Beirach, who's somewhere on the other side of the planet. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. Richie, where are you?
I'm in Hessheim, Germany. You're on the other side of the planet.
Yeah, well, that could be true. We have you and I have figured out our scheduling differences. I
9 hours. It's 8 o'clock at night here. So it's 9 hours earlier in Arizona. Is that where you are? Right.
Yes.
Okay. Time zone city.
Yeah, that's why I sent that email out the other day with every time zone that I've been asked about. Some, people are going, what is it in Switzerland?
Very helpful.
Yeah, it is very helpful. I'm trying to figure out where I record this. I don't see the recording. Shit. Anyway, so okay, here we go. We got a lot of comments here. You can see those right on the right side, Richie.
I can see Massimo, Matt, Sydney, hey Sid, Roy Bart, Neil Rips, James Murphy. Wow, a lot of people there. Hey, yo, everybody.
It's always a relief when you do this and you see people commenting, meaning that it's out there and it's working.
Now wait a minute, it's getting underneath. I have to scroll up to see it all now, right?
You do.
Mark Rabul is here.
Sydney Corbett.
Augmented Sixth, whoever that is. Harry, hey Harry. Alan Palanka, everybody's here. Solid.
Harry wouldn't miss this.
Sydney, hi baby. I can't hear you. No girls? Okay. Yes, sir.
See, I told you we'd have an audience here.
We have the diehards.
Yes. Damn. So if somebody out there, and I use StreamYard and I don't see the recording, if somebody out there knows where the hell the recording button is, let me know. I don't see it today.
That's your job.
I know that's my job. I know. That's my job. StreamYard. How am I recording this? Anyway, so as people come in here, we are here to talk about our book. You and I met, it's almost coming on 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And as I wrote in the intro to the book, it was Lieb introduced us. And you were very enthusiastic until I said to you, I think it would be kind of cool for you to do this at the piano. And you go, wait, this isn't a lesson, right? And I knew I had to do some backtracking at that point. No, we're cool. You can do it whatever you want.
Well, I didn't know you. I mean, Lieb gave you a great intro, but he does that a lot.
Yeah.
And I didn't know you, and in other words, you weren't a friend yet. And I've got to be paid for my experience, my services, and everything like that. So I could talk forever. There's no problem with that. But as soon as I touch the piano and start giving you advice, then I have to be paid. So that's why I stopped that. And you know what I'm saying? Sorry.
And I definitely don't have that much money. But the other thing that's changed, a lot has changed in the 3 years. And one of them is I said, we were trying to figure out how we were going to do the interview because everybody else, I send a Zoom link and they get on Zoom. And your response was, no, man, I don't use my camera. I'm going to get hacked.
I was paranoid that the government was looking at me in my own computer. I know. We all come a long way. You used to have hair when I first met you.
Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe that was back when you played Argo Santi. I had a little more hair.
That was 40 years ago, Matt.
That's right. I think that was the first time I ever heard you was you and Lieb playing a duo concert at Argo Santi. And if people don't know what Argo Santi is, it was like a future planned community by Paoli Soleri, who was a disciple of Frank Lloyd Wright. And he built this, supposedly it was going to be this massive completely self-contained community for hippies and people that wanted to live that way. And every year they had a jazz festival. McCoy was there. Was McCoy there in one of the years you were there?
No. Sean Phillips was there. Bernard Purdy. Some others. It was great. It was amazing. He put together some great stuff. The guy who booked it was named Bruce Joseph. Very nice guy. We stayed friends for a while. It was amazing. We were there for 5 days.
And do you remember why it stopped?
Well, when we were there was a terrible catastrophe. It was so hot that the 100 cars in the parking lot spontaneously blew up. They had to call the fire department, and it was dangerous because the car just blew up, and then each one blew the other car up.
Yeah.
So, and the people were kind of scared, so they asked us, would we please play to calm the people? And we did. I remember we played Nardis. It's funny. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the book, man. Okay?
You mean this thing?
Yo, look at that. That's it.
All right, and so people know that we're, this is not an infomercial on the book, but we do, we're here to talk about the book a little bit, and this started probably a year ago when you and I, we got into a rhythm of you'd have an idea, I'd have an idea, I'd say let you rap about this, and we record you, and then we would transcribe it, and then we'd edit it, and you and I would then read it together over the
Yeah,
phone, over Zoom or whatever, and so you had an idea of doing something. Hey, I want to do something for advanced students of jazz.
right. Because I have very little experience and desire for beginners. I'm not good at it. I'm embarrassed because it's really the most important thing. The highest thing is to teach beginners properly, especially in classical music too. But I just don't have the desire or the patience. So I go towards the advanced students because then I can talk about things that mean a lot to me, and they can already play. And the most dreaded words to me were, "Ah, professor, what's a bass clef?" That's it. I'm done. I'm suicidal. I can't deal with it. I can't.
Those are trombone players, by the way.
Only trombone players. Just kidding. So I gravitate towards the advanced, and then when I'm teaching them in groups or individually, I'm not working. I'm just talking about my own music or explaining pendulum or talking about chromaticism or polychords or did you know Bill Evans? Yes. Did you ever see Train? Yes. That's not work. I mean, it's work, of course, but I can't deal with what are the notes in the C major triad? I can't do it. So big forgiveness. So we did a video for helping advanced students, and then you talked me into doing stuff for beginners. How to get started. You talked.
Because I think you're wrong that the stuff you have to say doesn't help beginners, because I think they may not be able to apply it today, but I think
No,
it gives
no,
them.
no. I mean, yes and no. They don't know enough to appreciate the shit that I'm saying, but on a certain level, yes, you're right, of course, because they can get to it later, which is what I did. When I saw Train and Miles when I was 20, and when I was studying contemporary music in Manhattan School of Music with Millie Ulela, I didn't understand everything that was going on, but I knew that I would take good notes and that I would understand it later, and I did. And that's right. That's right. So I gave in to you.
And then that led to, how about if we talk about, we came up with other topics that kind of they sprang from what we were working on. And then one day somebody made the mistake of sending you a YouTube clip of the movie Whiplash. And oh my God, I woke up that morning to a bunch of emails, all caps, about how outrageous that movie was. And you couldn't help getting on. And we did a whole thing about that movie, and that is in the book as well as a chapter.
Whiplash was nuclear because it hit me where I live. It was a Hollywood movie that became very successful and even got an Academy Award for Fletcher, the character who was the Hitler in there, right? And it just hit me the wrong way. And everyone was saying, "Ah, it's just a movie. Lighten up. It's just dramatic, what was it? License, artistic license." I said, no. I said, teaching with cruelty and intimidation and bullying is not the way to get the best from a student. You get the best with tough love. Not like you don't hold their hands and go, oh, please. No, forget it. And if somebody's out of line or being disruptive, you nail them and throw them out of the room. Okay. I'm not talking about saying, oh, yeah, that's fine. Hit me with the chair, you know. Teaching is about information, clear presentation of information. And then it's about presentation application in the moment. Oh, you want to talk about polychords, polyharmony, chromaticism? Here's the information. Here's a musical example. Here I am playing it. Direct application in the moment. Here I'm playing it. And then questions and answers endlessly. And then a musical example is not necessarily from me. And then endless questions. I sit there for 3 hours and take good questions. And this garbage with Fletcher, the Hollywood crap that they put in his mouth, the abuse and the bullying, it doesn't happen like that. It's not boot camp. Music is not sports. They try to make it sports. Now, in sports, it's a very simple equation. Usain Bolt runs the 100 9.3, and this other guy runs it 9.4. Usain wins. End of story. That's it. It's all about winning. You don't ever hear about or think about the loser. Music is not about winning or losing. It's about confluence and reciprocity and love and giving. And teaching it is very important, holy thing. It was nauseating, and it would. I took it personally. That's why I reacted so bad. I'm getting pissed off right now. Not at the actors, but at the Hollywood assholes that I'm sure I would like to see the script before it became like that. I thought it was a decent script. And then just like they do with all the other jazz movies, from Lady Sings the Blues to Bird to that hideous piece of crap, Miles, Miles Ahead with Don Cheadle, they always over dramatize the clay feet of the musicians. Was Miles a junkie and abusive? Yes. Was Lady Day a junkie? Yes. Yes, of course. But to emphasize it above all, just to sell popcorn, no, it's terrible.
Well,
Terrible.
and there, like you said, there's a line. I mean, one of the things we talk about in the book is you have some stories in terms of the tough love you got in some cases, and you remembered those partly because they were so emotional when the message was delivered to you.
Well, there's a difference between getting someone's attention and imprinting them in a way that's dramatic and even theatrical to make a point. The point is it's all about the intention. The intention is not to hurt and bully. You don't get anything with cruelty except people that are damaged and screwed up, right?
Mhm.
But I had serious experiences with Sonny Stitt and Chet Baker and Stan Getz, George Coleman. And I was the young cat, the young white boy. And I was ready to learn. I wanted to learn. And I got some great stories and some great experiences. And these old cats, the old school cats, they don't teach. There's no classroom. There's no after the gig with a cup of coffee. There's no Oprah crap. They teach you on the bandstand while it's happening in front of everybody. They don't care. Why? Because that's how they were taught. Okay. I was playing with Chet in 1976 with Elliot Ziegman and Eddie Gomez in Washington in June. And Washington in June is like, Manila, the humidity. Anyway, I bought a red silk shirt because it was opening night. Chet had been in jail in Italy. It was his return. He got new teeth. We got a nice record contract with Horizon Records. He had money. So we're opening night, 6 nights a week. Tuesday night, 9 o'clock. All of the journalists are there. No computers, no cell phones. Amazing, right? Paper and pencil. So it's the return of Chet Baker. And so I'm all excited. I got my red silk shirt on. And we started the set. Chet is so deep and courageous and, of course, high. Sitting in a chair, can't stand up, but he's in total control, sitting in the chair. What do we start the week with? My Foolish Heart. A ballad. This takes a lot of guts. And there's no rehearsal. He leans over, he goes, Rich, play an intro. You and me, we got the first 8 bars together, rubato, the melody. Bring the cats in on the first beat of the 9th bar. I said, okay. I play an intro, everything's cool, place is silent, everybody's got, reporters got the pencils ready. It's magic. I play an intro, Chet comes in, beautiful sound, just like that big fat sound goes right into your ear. Audience is packed. First 2 rows is all women, young women, older women, looking up, smiling in the back of guys. And they're all looking at Chet. They're totally in love with him before he even plays a note. I play a chord. Boom. Now, I thought I was playing soft because I want to accompany him. But it wasn't soft enough for Chet. So he gets on the microphone, which is right there, and he says, Kid, you're too loud.
You can say what he actually said.
He said, you're too fucking loud. And it was a terrible shock because the audience is like shocked, silent. And Chet's aggressively telling me I'm too loud. I start sweating. Remember the red silk shirt? You know what happens when you sweat with a red silk shirt? It turns black, right? It's not polyester. I start to sweat. I'm playing soft. I got my foot jammed down on the soft pedal. I said, Jesus. Chord. It's still not soft enough. He gets on the microphone. He says, you're still too fucking loud, kid. Like, really, like. So now my shirt's black. I figured I had a nice life. I had a great career. It's over. I can't recover from this. It's public humiliation. And then he stopped talking into the microphone and kept playing. And everything was fine after that. Obviously, I was soft enough. I was so soft, like pianissimo. We got through the tune. I was drenched. He was smiling. He was fine. Called the next tune. I think we played Solar. It was happening. Gomez sounded great. Elliot, everybody's cool. And the tune was forgotten. The catastrophe was forgotten. We get to the end of the set, standing ovation. Welcome back, Chet. Sounds better than ever. Journalists are writing, like. So I'm gonna ask Chet what's going on because this was seemed really out of line. So I got him. I said, Chet, can I talk to you? He said, sure. He's smiling. He said, Richie, you sound wonderful. I said, why'd you humiliate me like that? Into the microphone, telling everybody that I'm too fucking loud? He looked at me and he smiled and he said, so you'd never forget to check your dynamics. You were too loud for me and my sense of dynamics. And I wanted to get your attention and imprint it. If I would have told you later, oh, listen, by the way, in my opinion, the Oprah shit, right? I said, I think you got to check your. I would have heard it because I respect him, but I can still remember it. And now every time I play in a ballad for a soloist or a singer, company or lead, Randy, I'm thinking, how's my dynamics? Just for a second. There's no trauma, but it's an awareness, an acute awareness. That's different than what the asshole did in the Whiplash. He tried to humiliate those kids. And he was just trying to get my attention. And it worked.
And you remember it to this day every time you sit and play with somebody on a ballad, right?
Absolutely. And I never played too loud behind someone. I never did again. Now, and also, I mean, Chet was already mature, a major artist, and his sensitivity to dynamics was way past me. It just was. What he thought was soft enough was different. I couldn't comprehend it. I mean, what is it supposed to? I was 25 years old, right? But then I realized I was. It was possible to play softer and still have project the sound. I learned that from him. Okay.
So that's, that's an example of some of the stories that we open up the book with. And
Right. In the book.
yeah, and I love the one from Manfred. You don't have to tell that because I'm hoping people will get the book and read it. But
Buy the book, man.
What's that?
Buy the book, everybody.
But I love those stories, and that's why I thought it was important to start them out, because that was, those were some key moments in your learning how to play jazz.
Yes, and the finer points and the details, and what do they say? God's in the details. The extreme sensitivity to dynamics, loud and soft. I'll tell you another story about Jack DeJohnette playing with Stan Getz. Stan Getz with me, Jack DeJohnette, Dave Holland, okay, in Toronto, again, 6 nights. Now, I played with Tony Williams and recorded with him. That was fantastic, challenging, but not that difficult. Jack was a whole other thing, because Jack is not of this world. The way he hears time and the way he breaks up time is very different and brilliant. The thing is that he's incredibly accurate. He doesn't speed up or slow down, and he's also always swinging. It's not just stiff, it's swinging. But he has his own metabolic way of breaking up the time that I had trouble following. So with Stan, we would start with invitation, doo-doo-be-doo, and Stan would play a great solo. I'm comping, everything's cool. Jack was cooling it. He wasn't being like the super Jack. He was still playing great for Stan. And then for the piano solo, because I was playing in a language more similar to Chick at that time. By the way, they just finished playing with Miles for 4 years with Chick. So Jack heard the vocabulary and the attitude, and he said, okay, this is the way. So he's breaking up the time, not playing the ones. I was always playing, 8-bar phrases, first beat of the 9th bar, here's the bridge, because I liked it was comfortable. And Jack didn't do it. He played a 1 when the music wanted the 1, which of course is what Herbie did too, rather than mark it off. Okay? Even Elvin played an 8-bar phrases. Jack was a different thing. So I foolishly tried to shadow him, try and follow him, which is catastrophe for a piano player. You've got to keep your own individual sense of time and form. So this is what I'm learning with Jack. And he sounds great, and the band sounds great, but I missed a couple of very important cadences. And I tried, the worst thing was I tried to follow him, and it got screwed up. It was not cool. Nobody knew it, but we knew it. So then I'm not feeling that great. And after the first night, Jack and Dave come to my room, knock on the door, both guys standing there, said, "Hey, Rich, can we come in?" So I said, "Okay, I'm getting fired." They hired somebody else. They come in, very nice, smiling, not weird, not like trying to hurt me. Jack says, "Listen, Rich, you have really good time and you have a good sense of form. Don't listen to me for the time. Don't listen to me. I can't even listen to me." So Dave Holland, he's English, right? He goes, "What Jack means is," it's like he's translating it from Jack into English. He says, "What Jack means is, don't try and follow him. Trust yourself. You have good time. You have good phrasing. You know where you are. Don't listen to him for the form or the one. Just let it go." That was their message. I said, "Okay, thank you. I'm going to try." Very friendly, no bullshit, no intimidation. So next night, same, same set, invitation, doo doo be doo. Everybody's very friendly. Stan plays a great solo. People are nutting. I play piano solo, and I say, "Okay, motherfucker, just relax. Play your time. Put it where you want it. Don't follow him." And I did, and it was great. It came out really good. And after that tune, Jack was looking at it like no big deal, like, "Oh, marry me." No, it was like, "Yeah, good job." Smiles all around, and that was it. I learned it fast. Did I screw up sometimes? Yeah. Thing is, Jack never screwed up once. I never heard it. Maybe he did when he was younger. But that was a fantastic lesson because it meant that I had to take responsibility for the time and the form and where we are in the tune and not depend on some external source, which was really eye opening. And that
You
was,
and I, you and I talk a lot about time. And it's something, a lot, so many people are focused on the notes and getting the right notes over the right chords. Talk a little about what you hear. I mean, people may not realize, they know you as a player, but may not realize that you spent 15 years in Leipzig, Germany, teaching at the Mendelssohn School. So you have tons and tons of teaching experience. Talk a little about some of the things that people don't quite get right about time.
well, I've been teaching my whole life since the
Yeah.
70s anyway, and formally and informally, privately and in groups. I love it. I still love it. Um, Time is, in my opinion, you you can teach people composition. You can teach them about harmony, theory. You can analysis, technique. These things can be taught. History. You can't teach someone how to have good time. It's not possible. You can demonstrate by playing with good time or records, recordings. Hear this. This time is great. And it can be taught by osmosis, but it can't be taught like C minor major 7 flat 5. Here are the notes. Bang. Here it is on the paper. Learn it. Use it. You can't quantize the time. Does that mean that if you don't have great time, you never will? No, because you can improve your time, but only if you have that sense in you already. And I'm sure about this because I've been teaching for 40, 50 years. You can't teach someone for sure how to swing because swing is a whole other ethereal equation. The swing is about the triplet and the tension and interaction of the triplet against the quarter note. So you have in classical music, you have ding, 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 ding. That's classical music. It's up and down. It has its own kind of swing, by the way. It's just up and down, even ding, ding, ding. It's great. Jazz is about the triplet. Ding, jing, 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 gang, jing, zing. And behind each quarter note is an eighth note triplet. About the triplet, about syncopation, about the different parts of the beat, behind the beat, on the beat, ahead of the beat. This is complex. These things can be demonstrated but not taught in the same way. You can improve your time, but it can't be taught in the same way. That's
And
what
how does one improve their time?
by playing with people that are 4 times more experienced and listening to a teacher that knows how to teach and listening endlessly to records with a great time.
Hmm.
I'll tell you one way to not to improve your time is,
Uh-oh.
is with a metronome. I'll tell you right now, take your metronome, put it in a paper bag, and throw it out the fucking window. Because, especially for jazz, it's a lie. It's not good time. Metronome is perfect metric time. Tick, 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 tick. It's a robot. Metronome is okay if you're 7 years old and you're practicing and you love music, but you're lonely and you want to go out and play with your friends, and oh, it's so lonely. The metronome is nice, like a little friend, like tick, 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 tick. Okay, that's your kid. But if you think that the playing of the metronome is going to improve your time, your jazz time, you're completely wrong. And even you say, well, I only practice with the metronome, but I play with real people. Bullshit. Stan told me you play with what you practice. So you got this click. The click is not real. Jazz time is flexible. It goes up, it comes down, it's rubber. Metronome is steel. It doesn't move, doesn't respond. The essence of jazz is call and response. It's interaction. If I'm playing this tempo and I want to play behind the beat, ding, jang, ding, gang, so it sounds really relaxed and swinging. It's going to sound fucked up with the metronome. It's going to sound like I can't play time. Put Elvin Jones on, a nice medium tempo, then put a metronome on. It's a joke. Sounds like you can't play because jazz is flexible. Each phrase is different. If Herbie's playing with Tony and they're with Ron Carter and they're playing behind the beat, it sounds like it's slowing down. It's not slowing down. It's the bottom of the beat. If they're playing an up tempo or it's double time, it sounds like it's rushing ahead. It's not rushing ahead. It's on top of the beat. So the metronome is anti-human. Now, if you wanted to say, well, I just use it for scales. Yes, but guess what? It's using you. It's meanwhile, all these hours of scales and all this other shit, you're getting this implanted into your ear's mind, into your DNA. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not good time. It's just even. So I know you have an argument with this. You said you practice your trombone shit with the metronome. Yeah, but you also play with other people. The whole thing is with other people. So I know we're going to get a lot of crap from it. I don't care. I'm sure of this. I have seen hundreds of kids that practice with metronomes that have terrible time. And I'll even go further, which is really going to get me into trouble. But the best thing about being 75 is I don't care, because what are you going to do to me, right? All the band in the box, Jamie Abersol shit, it's like a big metronome. And it's even worse. Please forgive me. But the great thing about jazz is interaction from the rhythm section to the soloist. There can't be interaction from the Jamie Abersol tape or the band in the box. It's a pre-recorded thing. And you're playing and you think you're playing with the rhythm section? No. you're playing with a metronome that has maybe a piano, bass, and drums. It creates the illusion of good time. It's not real. I'm sorry.
Should we promote the Abersold album you did with Lieb?
I did that for the money.
My trombone shit. Well, in case anybody missed that, we talk about that in the book. And you also get a chapter which is Richie and I kind of going back and forth. And Richie, it's not like we've talked about this ad nauseum. It's not like I disagree that the metronome can ingrain to you a machine-like stiff time. But you'll see kind of our back and forth about how I use it for exercises and things of that nature. But the book also has a chapter about interaction, group interaction of your tune on Elegy for Bill Evans, Nardis. And we'll let people read that, but that really kind of goes the other direction and shows how three guys just kind of make up a form and make up an exploration of a tune in a way that hasn't been played before. So you're kind of getting, all angles of this. Let's I'm hoping people will ask questions. Sydney.
I see some questions over here. I see something from James Murphy.
Well, here, look at your screen. I just put something up from our friend Sydney. And those last two letters are meant to be improvising. So can you talk at some point about your fluency in bringing other pieces into your improvisation?
Other pieces, meaning?
Quoting other tunes.
Oh, Sid. Okay. I like to make quotes on certain tunes, especially vamps. It's a pretty normal occurrence. Like on Some Other Time, it's just C major 7 G7 sus. It's like a texture. This vamp, it's hypnotic. Bill Evans, piece. So after you play on the changes for a while, I use that tune for quotes. I just did a recording last week where I quoted Maria from West Side Story. I quoted When I Fall in Love, Lush Life, The Wee Small Hours by Romance. What this does is, especially if you're playing in a basically chromatic universe the whole night, you're playing a nice vamp C major 7 G7 ballad feeling. Those quotes bring in a historical context, and it gives you a chance, especially if you're not playing a lot of tunes, it gives you a chance to communicate your knowledge and love of the repertoire, all these tunes which I know and I played, but I wouldn't necessarily play at a concert. Quoting them, just a fragment, it brings in a historical element that I really like to have and that audiences like, and me too. And also, it's not just an exact quote. I might have da 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 da, and now really chromatic, maybe wrong notes against the C major, intentionally creating color and interest. As far as the fluency, I've been playing a long time, so it's already in me. All the work was done, the technique, the knowledge, my ability to play what I hear was done when I was kid because I practiced so much. And I'm very lucky and blessed, and I worked very hard to get my ear with my hand so I can play anything I hear. And I wasn't always able to do that in my teens or even 20s. The way I play It's simple, but kind of deep. Heart, ear, hand. Heart, ear, hand. Heart. I play from my heart, from my feelings, not from my brain. It's not academic. It's not intellectual. It's generated by something that I feel. So while I'm playing, let's say I'm playing a tune. I feel something. I have a feeling. Of course, it's not a literal word. It's nonverbal, which is great. So it doesn't have to be named or categorized or quantized, but it's a definite feeling. I have the feeling in my heart, and in a nanosecond, the feeling goes to my ear and becomes what? A phrase, becomes a group of notes, a melody or a chord. And then in another nanosecond, it goes to my fingers, to my hand, and I grab it from the piano. Heart, ear, hand. That's how I play. And that's how I think most players of my generation and my experience play. We're not playing from patterns that we learned. We're not playing from transcribed solos. We don't know what we're going to play. Is it a language? Yes. Is it vocabulary? Yes. Is it repetition? Of course. But think about this. You get up in the morning and you say to your girlfriend, "Hi, honey, how you doing?" "Okay." She says, "I'm not feeling so good today." I said, "Oh, can I get you a cup of tea?" Now, are you going to, that's life. This is an improvisation. You're not going to sit and write it out. Well, it's the same thing when you're playing music and playing jazz anyway. That's why I love jazz, because it's improvised, because we don't know. I don't want to know. Classical music is about the composer. Chopin, Beethoven, Bach, Ligeti. And if they're geniuses, then fantastic. It's about them. Is there room for interpretation from you playing them? Yeah. 5%, 10%. Buy 10 recordings of the Chopin preludes. Rubinstein, Michelangelo, Martha Argerich, Ashkenazi, Ivo Pogorelych, Richter, Glenn Gould. But you're going to be very similar, except maybe Glenn will be crazy because he likes to be perverse, right? It's about Chopin. Can you express yourself? Yes, but it's enough. Jazz is different. Jazz is about the individual's view of the world through his or her music. It's a big responsibility. You don't want to go up there and play scales and arpeggios or parts of transcribed solos for a gig or recording. No, you've got to be able to generate your own content. And this takes an enormous amount of work and listening and training and analysis and practice. There's no effortless mastery. You hear me, Kenny? Lie.
I'm going to have to cut that out.
Yeah, right. Great
So
mastery.
what would you say about
Mastery comes after great effort.
what would
Yeah.
you say to somebody that says, right now, all I have are my scales and my memorized patterns, and I have to play something. I don't have that direct connection from my heart to my hands.
Stay at home and work on it until you have something to say. And then go out and play with your friends that are on a similar level and work on it. Work hard. Play your heart out. But don't make a record and embarrass yourself because you're going to get better in 6 months. Of course, play. Do the best you can. You think that I sounded like I sound now when I was 18? Forget it. I sounded terrible. Terrible. Corny, stiff, strange. No experience. Because I'm not a genius. Geniuses have to work hard too. They just get quick. They get there much quicker. Okay?
Richie, you've been doing some cool stuff. Talk about the film score that you did early this summer. Speaking of improvising.
I got a call through a great friend, Mr. Kurt Ranker, my producer, my good friend, to do a film score, an improvised film score for a movie called Fabian. It came out a couple of years ago, and this really intrigued me. I've done some film scores before, writing things out. I once did in the 80s a short documentary on Cézanne. That was wonderful. Independent film, French documentary. But this was like a major picture, okay? Now, I wasn't the only composer doing the music on the film. I was only doing a small part of it. But the process was fantastic. And you could see it anytime. It was the picture was called Fabian, and the director is Dominic Robb. And what it was is I went to Kurt's studio, and the director was there, and the engineer, and me, and Kurt, and he would have cues on the computer and put it right on the piano, and he would show me. And the film is a brilliant film. It's about the Nazis in 1931 in Munich, like before they took power, but they were all there hanging out, right? And the guys didn't have uniforms. So I had the suit, but you could tell with the short hair, and they were like assholes, right? It was a interesting movie. So he had a 3-minute thing, a cue, where the Nazis are coming into a bar, where the father is one of their friends, but his daughter is in love with the hero. It's very strange, and the guy's Jewish, so he needed music. The Nazis going from the car into the bar, and then a more sensitive thing. So he told me what he wanted, exactly what he wanted, and I gave him 2 or 3 different possibilities in a language that I thought would be appropriate. And then he said, "That's good, but can you make it less sweet?" I said, "Okay." So I made it more dissonant. And then he said, "That's also very good. Can you make it faster?" I said, "Sure." And then he said, "Okay, that's too fast." So I love working with this film director because he knew exactly what he wanted. He was also kind of an amateur piano player, so he could speak to me in the right language. And we had a great time. We had hours and hours, and they used some of my improvised stuff. But the idea of improvisation, it made it flow. It made it flow. Of course, I could have sat and written it out and given it to the orchestra, but this was much more effective cost performance and cost benefit and more immediate. So my part was done after he approved it. I gave him 2 or 3 different things. I love doing it. I would like to do more because it was so similar to what I would ordinarily do.
And what I think was interesting is he had the laptop showing you the film on the piano.
Yeah, right on the piano
Right.
with the film, with the sound.
Right.
And then I would play to the action. He would turn off the sound, and I would play to it. It was fascinating. I love that shit. We're
Richie,
getting
Mike,
wait, we're getting some comments here.
I know. I'm going to put one up right now.
Okay. Michael Jeffrey Stevens. Who would you consider as geniuses?
Because
Great.
you were talking about geniuses.
Okay. Tony Williams was a genius. Revolutionized the drums at 17. Not just learned from Kenny Clark and Philly Joe and all the great drummers that came before him. He learned that when he was 14, 15. Came up with his own way of playing jazz. At 17, fully formed with Miles. Absolutely genius. Who else is genius? Herbie Hancock, 23 years old with Miles, live at Lincoln Center. Great taste, amazing swing, already great vocabulary, great chops, great sound, an amazing sense of invention, creativity, always different. They played the same dumb fucking tunes for 30 years. Starlight by Starlight, My Funny Valentine, Walking. The tunes. Miles did not change his repertoire until much later, until ESP. So that was the gig standards. But what they did with Stella by Starlight or what they did with the blues or around midnight. So creative. And the beautiful thing about playing those standards, you could hear the genius of Herbie because there was a frame of reference. If it's an original tune and we don't know it, yeah, it sounds great, but we don't know. We have no frame of reference. But if you're playing Stella by Starlight or blues or Green Dolphin Street, we have a frame of reference. Everybody knows that. Your mother knows that. Then you really hear the invention. Who else was a genius?
I'll put one up. A question.
Wayne. What about Wayne?
Was he a genius?
Of course. Total genius. Complete individual way of looking at the world.
Both
Now,
as a composer and player.
composer and player and thinker. There are great players that were not geniuses, but that became possessed of a genius. For example, Bill. I knew Bill.
Evans.
He didn't start out with everything. He didn't start out with that incredible facility and knowledge. He had to learn it. He put it together, he said, brick by brick. His genius was in his ability to convey his vulnerability. He was able to do that. Could Herbie do that too? Sometimes, yeah. Schumann was a genius too. Talk about vulnerability. And Chopin, right? Was Train a genius? No. Listen to the early stuff he did with Earl Bostic, the blues stuff. He was still getting it together. Even the stuff he did with Miles, with the sheets of sound. He just kept playing and playing and playing. But he got it together. He got his thing together. And we can say for sure his music was totally possessed of genius. Miles is a genius. Miles was a genius because Miles could see potential and he liked to put things together. He was a great conductor. And he did it 3 times. He did it with the first band with Train, with Cannonball, Red Garland, and Philly Joe. Then he did it with Herbie and Tony and Wayne. And then he did it again with Chick and Jack and Dave Holland and with Wayne. And then he went somewhere else. Then it became the Miles Davis show. It's okay. He gave us 30 years of incredible music. Genius, visionary motherfucker. Yehudi Menuhin was a genius, playing at the age of 8, the Brahms violin concerto, not like a child, like a mature artist in a child's body. That's what that shit is. It's amazing.
There's a question here I'm hesitant to put up there because I know we've talked about this before, but gently, he wants to know
Who?
what, I don't know who this person is.
Hey, baby, how you doing, man?
Hopefully this isn't John Schofield.
No, it's not Skull. I know who this is. What do I think of the guitar?
Now, while you think about that, you and I have so many conversations. I mean, I'm at the bottom at trombone, and you're at the top of the pecking order with piano, and everything revolves around piano, and so guitar is definitely above trombone. But give us some thoughts.
I love the trombone. Just not today. No, it's easy to make a joke. It's like the viola, I love the guitar. I do love it as an instrument. I love the acoustic guitar. I love the electric guitar. I love Sco, Abercrombie, Ralph Towner, George Benson, McLaughlin, Mike Boshin. These are motherfuckers. These are great musicians. Now, the guitar and the piano are natural enemies. Not enemies, but because they're both harmony instruments. Guitar can play chords, kind of, and the piano plays chords. So if they're playing together in a band, there has to be an agreement made. Otherwise, you have train wreck, disaster, garbage sound, overcomping, and just muddle. But I found playing with Sko, we had a great time because Sko, when he's playing with a piano player, is really 90% linear, and his linear shit was amazing and brilliant and swinging and individual and totally Sko. So there was no problem with Sko. Now Abercrombie had a great harmonic sense too, wonderful and individual. So that was a little more difficult because we had to work it out. We had a rule in general. If I'm playing a solo, he doesn't play any chords behind me. I don't need it. Occasionally he would do some rhythmic like, but if I'm playing for him and he's playing linearly, he wants me to play chords for him. No single notes. Then we had the thing in the ECM, we would have a linear interaction during both of our solos. In other words, it worked out fine. It can be worked out, but I do love the guitar, to answer your question.
Well, so I'll feed the beast. What are its limitations?
The guitar?
Yeah.
The guitar is not a piano that you hold like in your lap, okay? You can't do a lot of things that you can do on the piano on the guitar. But the great thing is you can do things on the guitar that you can only dream about with the piano, like sustain. Sko could play a note and we keep going and going. And then if he had enough feedback, he loved feedback because he said the feedback was the distortion. It gave it longevity, the sound. And I understand that. Guitar has volume and projection. Wipe out the piano. Because why? Because the electric guitar is basically an electric instrument. The piano is an acoustic instrument. So it has the advantage of power and projection. But the guitar could be so amazingly sensitive, can be wonderful and very heartbreakingly beautiful and awesomely powerful.
Cool. Here's something from Massimo. Massimo's been active on the chat here. Let's give him something here. Can you talk about the relationship between improvising and the concept of theme and variation?
Well, the whole idea of jazz is basically theme and variation. Think about it. Stella by Starlight. Theme, 32 bars, play the changes, one chorus, and then you do the variations on the chords. It's a theme and variations. That's the format. Just like the Goldberg variations is theme and variations. You have the first page, the Saraband, that's the theme. And then Bach would write 26 or 28 variations on those chords on the theme. Beethoven had the Diabelli variations. The whole idea of jazz is theme and variation. And that's embedded in the whole history of music in terms of theme and variations. It began with that.
Here are some friends of yours.
Gene Perler and Adam Nussbaum. Yo, brothers, how you doing?
Tell us a little history with Eugene and Nuss.
Oh God.
That we can broadcast.
That's right. I know these guys longer than I'm willing to say. Gene Perler's wonderful bass player, great swinging jazz bass player, plays great notes, never plays too much. Swings, great cat. Nussbaum, what can I say? He's a walking circus. He's like a clown genius. Swings deep, great accompanist, great soloist. He's like, he got you. When you're playing with Adam, you feel very safe and supported. And Gene and Adam together, forget it. It's like two of the best firemen coming in to rescue you in a burning building. All right, is that enough?
Well, and I think this relates a little bit to the last chapter of our book, is that you've chosen guys who are not just not just a rhythm section over which you're playing like it would be a play along, but these are guys that you are all communicating, you're all expressing a direction at the same time, you're hearing each other, you're finishing the sentences, so to speak. You know, that is a hallmark of what you've played over your career.
Look, jazz is about community. It's about a revolving bunch of people that are probably friends living in a community that play together very, very often. There's two things. There's the individual creativity, knowledge, vocabulary, expertise, and experience. And then there's playing with others. And especially New York in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s had the most greatest variety of great young musicians in my generation. Everybody was there, and the clubs were there, and they were open 7 nights a week. None of this bullshit. It's only 2 nights. You could go out every night and hear jazz in New York City. 20, at least 20 working clubs. Nobody's making $1 million. The tourists would come on the weekends, place would be filled. But Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is when the real New Yorkers would go and hear, when musicians would go out. And you had the Village Vanguard, and you had Sweet Basil, and then you had Mike and Randy's place, 7th Avenue South, then you had St. James Infirmary, and then you had Sweet Basil, and you had, oh God, you had Lush Life and Jasmine, and then uptown you had Birdland and Cleopatra's Needle. I'm not even talking about Brooklyn. And then those were working every night. Oh, and Pookie's Pub and the Half Note, of course, every night. Now, the old cats would tell me about 52nd Street, like that street where Bird was with Miles, the Three Deuces, where Bird would walk with his horn out from club to club. The clubs were so close together, he wouldn't even pack up his horn. He'd just go from place to place. Well, it wasn't like exactly like that, but it was close. And you know, it was a great time. It was a great time, and there were lots of friends, and we were going to Japan 3, 4 times a year, Europe 5 times, different festivals, different seasons, and then tours in America, Canada, Brazil. There was work, constant work, tours, and they paid well. And the gigs in New York paid okay. Everybody was doing okay. It was a very thriving. We thought it would go on forever. Of course, nothing goes forever. So I feel very blessed. I have tremendous gratitude for my life. It's not over, but I'm still, you know, definitely at the end of it, you know, of the playing. But I feel very creative. I feel good. I'm happy about music. I like living in Germany. I'm glad I'm not in New York now. The United States is fucked because of certain reasons that we know about. I mean, the gun laws and the abortion laws and Trump and all his morons. So it's not a good scene. Bad scene. Okay. Of course, all my old friends are there. Have some here, have Kurt here, but I miss my friends. I don't miss New York because the New York that I loved and knew is not there anymore. It's different. It's different.
Richie, we're on our hour, and I can go more. And I know we may be getting past your bedtime there, but
Hey,
let's
hey, 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 hey.
before we go, let's let people know that they can go here and look at the book. And one of the things that we're doing is we're also providing a bonus, which is a book, the first book Richie and I did, which is Framework for Jazz Mastery. This is where Richie talks about heart, ear, hand that he mentioned earlier. So we throw that in with an expanded chapter, by the way, on stage fright. Richie has a whole rap on stage fright, and we added that to the book. So if you go to the URL I've been putting up there, which is musicsavvy.com, /book, and take a look at this, you can download a preview of it. And one of the things I'm going to say also is if you're around my site, check out Pocket Jazz for you or students. It's free. meaning it's not a trial. It's just free, free, free. And there's a lot of stuff in here. I actually have the course, the lesson here within the jazz language, Richie, that where I put Nardis in here, and we talk a little about it. And I have the rap that you and I did, the raw recording of our conversation on interaction, so people can get that. So check this out. Lots of listening, lots of lessons. Again, free, free, free. It started as an experiment on TikTok, and I transformed it into a course on jazz. So if you or your students want some entertainment, some good lessons, Richie and I went back and forth a lot, where Richie would say, you can't teach anything in 3 minutes. And my response was always, I'm not trying to teach in 3 minutes. I'm trying to inspire and give people something to work on for the rest of their life within those 3 minutes. So check that out. One other thing that I had here, if I can bring this up, Richie sent me a link today. I'm going to put this up here because this is very interesting. It is a I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it here. It is a hold on. Well, okay. Go to Spotify and look for an album called Firefly with Jeremy Steig. Steig, Steig, S-T-E-I-G. You're going to hear chromatic Richie Beirach, which may be the only time you can hear a funky chromatic Richie Beirach. The funky is the interesting part, right?
Yeah.
And you did that one tune for the session.
Yeah. It was Jeremy Steig and Steve Gadd, Gary King playing bass, and a lot of other musicians. But it was Jeremy, and we did this one tune of Joe Chambers wrote the tune. I just played acoustic piano. And yeah, it's funky. I love playing with Steve Gadd. And I just played the way I play. You know, it was 1976 or 7. Steig left us. But it's a wonderful record.
And they had to promise that you could play like Richie Beirach.
Well, I'm not a guy that compromises so much. So when he called me, I said, listen, what do you want me to do? He said, well, I'm making a commercial record, but I want to have you on this one tune where you can burn out. I said, okay, that's all I need to hear.
Right. The tune is called Hopscotch. Thank you, Gene. Okay. Well, this is something we talked about earlier this morning. You want to talk a little about leaving and how that got introduced to Chet?
Okay. I wrote Leaving in 1975. It was a very emotional, dramatic, kind of a broken-hearted, girl leaves boy kind of a thing. I fell in love with a stunning German girl. She was 21. I was 30. And we was gonna, get together, and she was gonna move to New York with me and start a life. She spoke very little English. I spoke no German. But we were in love. Okay. And then she was supposed to come with me to the Hubris recording date in Ludwigsburg, in Bauer Studios in 1977, where the ECM recordings were done. So wonderful places. It was my first solo piano record, and I invited her to come. And I went to her house to pick her up, and I was there, and she was standing in front of the house crying with her father and her 3 brothers like this. And I said, oh, shit. She couldn't come. She decided. She spoke no English. She had no way of supporting herself, and she would be completely dependent on me. And she was right, but it was heartbreaking because I went to get her, to bring her to the record date, and then to go to New York, So it was really sad, and, goodbye. It was horrible. So I'm on the train from Aachen to Stuttgart, Ludwigsburg, and I'm sitting there, like, trying not to cry in front of the whole car, and I get this melody. It just comes in my ear. dee doo dee, dee doo dee. I said, okay, I gotta write this down. So I go to the conductor and I go, haben Sie ein Stift? Which just means you got a pen. He went, yeah. I had a piece of paper. So I'm writing it down. I'm writing, and it's coming while I'm writing it. Dee, dee, da, dee, da, da. And the harmony is coming. Da, do, dee, E flat major 7 flat 5, D7, B, G minor, da, da, ba, ba, da. The whole song came out in one. Blah. I just writing, keeping up with it, right? I had the song. At the end, I realized it needed a pickup. So I went, dee, da, 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 dee, da, dee. It was done. I got to the record date. I was very sad, but I was glad to have a record date. And I recorded it. That was the first recording of Leaving. And it's on the record. And
You
I love
talk about your best tunes coming from a deeply emotional experience.
Well, it seems like these gifts, these tunes that are gifts, they just come to me. Um, Broken Wing came to me also. That was for Chet. Zal, a tune for Speaking of Cypher. Elm was a big gift where it just comes in. I don't have to work for it. And then most of the tunes I have to work on. I have a melody, and then I have to go like a shoemaker every day and work the leather, and then see what else I need and write the bridge and this. And that's fine. I love that. It's like chemistry, right? But certain tunes, because of big emotional experiences, usually someone dies, or a baby is born, or some fantastic event, something shocking and out of the ordinary. They inspire. They inspire requiems or celebrations. I've got a whole bunch of gifts from that.
Sydney's asking about the version the kids made. Was that the thing on YouTube that I
Yeah,
saw?
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when you write a song that becomes a hit, you have a lot of wonderful reactions, and people write for 40 years. Oh, I heard that song when I met my girlfriend, or oh, I listened to it every morning. I was recuperating from cancer, or you become part of the culture. I have a few songs like that, but because leaving is kind of a universal lament. It's a universal emotion. So everybody leaves somebody sometimes, right? Or leaving a place, or death, or you were together for 6 weeks and then you have to leave. It's universal. So people relate to that kind of emotion, and it's in the tune. These kids in the school, I think in Israel, I think Sid was in Israel. They got together and did a reharm and overdubbed together voices and the cello and the French horn. Fantastically beautiful. The generation of kids now that are between 18 and 26 are amazing. They're different from the older ones. I just noticed that. They're super talented because they have the internet. They know, they have access to everything. I think they're from Israel. That's right. And just the feeling in this. I mean, sometimes people, there's another recording of Leaving with a bassoon and an accordion. I mean, it's very valiant, but it's very tough with the bassoon and the accordion. I'm sorry, okay, but thank you for doing it. But this particular version with these kids, and I wrote them. I wrote on YouTube. I said, "Thanks, beautiful job." So much love and expertise went into it. It was very flattering. And it's like, when you write a song like that, it's like a child. And then so these kids like are taking care of your child and maybe dressing them up in different clothes or her. So it's fascinating to see what people do with your music.
Harry's got another one, I think.
Oh, Harry loves. Hi, Harry. How you doing, man? He loves October 10th, the duo thing I did with Lieb on our first duo recording called Forgotten Fantasies. That's 1978 for Horizon. And again, October 10th, it was one of those times. I met my first wife. I divorced her on October 10th. Years later, it was the first night I played with Stan Getz, and some other things that I don't want to talk about that happened on that day. And it's kind of like a requiem. And people that know my music know it. It's a very melancholy song, but there's some areas of brightness on the bridge. It goes to major, strange mediant, E major, G major, B major, right? But and I just wanted to talk about Harry. Harry's a great friend, former drummer. He's a great collector of music, and he sends us all these incredible bootleg recordings of Miles and Train and Bill Evans and all kinds of other stuff that we love to hear, and stuff that we made that we don't remember, like this Firefly thing. And he's very important to our community. I just want to, Harry, thanks, baby. We love you, and feel good, man.
And speaking of Lieb, what makes Lieb special for you to play with, and vice versa?
Lieb, the main thing about Lieb is his unpredictability. That we're both in pursuit of surprise in the music. Leonard Feather was a nasty old motherfucker. He hated Train and Elvin, and he subjected them to a terrible interview in Downbeat magazine. He accused them of not swinging. Complete jerk. But he did say one good thing. He had a definition of jazz, and his definition was the sound of surprise. And he was right about that. And the thing about playing with Lee for 50 years is that I'm still surprised by his playing when we play together. I don't know what he's going to do. He's not predictable. I mean, he has his own language, me too, but he's so creative and so much in the moment. He's totally in the moment and responds to what's happening around him. Real jazz musician. He's got no agenda. You know, when you're young, you're practicing and you want to impress. Nobody knows you. So you want to show what you can do. So you bring out all these things that you practice. And it's impressive, especially to a layman who doesn't know anything. But it's not you. And you're not connecting with the musicians. Lieb is always in there. He's waiting. He's waiting to find the hole so he can play his phrase. And then he plays the phrase and he steps back. And he waits to see what happened. Sounds familiar? That's what Miles did. Well, guess what? Lee played with Miles for 3 years. It's not just Miles. It's become a way to play. It's interaction. And this is the way great classical music is written too, by the way. Lee's got that. I don't know what he's going to do. And I look forward to playing with him. I'll put a plug in here. We have a Quest tour in Europe from October 25th until November 3rd. Frankfurt, Singen, Belgium, different 5 or 6 gigs. We hope that you come.
What would he say if I asked him the question about playing with you?
You got to ask him that.
Well, I don't think he's on the stream at the moment.
I hope he would say the same thing about me and that I don't jam him up. The thing he hates most is overactive piano players or guitar players that comp him to death. It's very easy to overplay when you play with Lee because it's so exciting and the level of intensity is high. You want to keep playing, but if you play too much, you get in his space. You get in his space and he will just back off. And he'd be drugged, you know? And you could tell with his shoulder he's not happy, you know? Or he goes like this. He goes, He needs a place to play his music, which means I have to comp around him. And that's great. That's what it should be. Talk about theme and variations. He's the theme. Also, the soprano tenor is great, but soprano, You can't be playing the chords in the same register as a soprano. You're blocking it. You have to stay out of his register. Best thing is to have your left hand and your right hand separated and leave in the middle. Then you're supporting the sonority and you're not blocking it. Also, if in terms of comping for lead, you don't want to be choppy. Chop, chop, chop. Because that makes him have to do that. You want to lay down, you want a contrast. You want to lay down a carpet for him that's sustained. So he has an opportunity to put down what he wants to. And then, if he's building up or stops, that's a big signal for me and Jabali and Ron to come in and burn. He's very easy to play with for me, but I think it's very hard for most piano players to play with him because they don't know him.
You see the quote at the bottom?
Great quote from Lieb at the IASJ conference in New York City a few weeks ago. I couldn't be a studio musician because I'm not a chameleon. I need to be myself, and I need more than 16 bars to do it. Yes, thank you, Lieb. That's very self-aware. He's not.
Well, and I think there was a from the opposite standpoint about Michael Brecker, kind of at a certain point forgetting who the essence of Michael Brecker was, because that's all he did do for a while.
Right, he did that for a while. But the one thing I would disagree is that it was always, you could always hear his sound in a tenth of a second.
Yes, you could.
His sound was his identity. And what he played was what was appropriate. That's a studio musician. That's what he did. Then he stopped that. He stopped it when he got his band, and his playing changed. Became much more focused and much more, as you know, on that inboard thing that we did.
Mm-hmm. All right, my friend. I think we're done. This has been a pleasure.
Anybody else? That's something that we should answer?
Well, somebody was asking about drum ode.
What about it?
I don't know.
What a great record. I loved it.
What was great about it?
Drama. Total drama. This is an ECM record in New York City with 10 drummers and me and Gene Perla and Lee and Badal Roy, Cohen Walcott, and Abercrombie in a studio with Manfred. And Manfred likes to have very quiet, very smooth recordings with no drama and no action and quiet, subdued. And that's the atmosphere he loves. And I love it too for certain things. But this was a burnout record. This was totally against the Manfred's taste. And I'm not sure Manfred knew about it. But he trusted Dave and he trusted us. Also, I played no acoustic piano on drum mode. So I had an 88 key Rhodes with a bottom with two 12-inch Altec Lansing speakers. It was amazing sound. An electric bass, Gene Perla's on there. Jeff Williams played some drums. And we had Batato, we had Ray Armando. And we burned out. Now, with all these drummers in the studio, it's not like, Jan Gabarek and all the gray guys, like quiet, yes, Manfred, yes, quiet. They were yelling and saying, hey, how you doing? And smoking dope and sushi and hamburgers in the mixing room. And Manfred was going nuts. Poor Lee. So Manfred comes out, bless his soul, and he goes to Dave. He goes, Dave, I cannot work like this. This is crazy. This is ECM. Lee says, what do you want to do? These are drummers, man. This is drummers. He says, I cannot work like this. Anyway, we finished the record, and from what I understand, Manfred really loves the record, and everyone loves the record. But that was the end of Dave's relationship with ECM. Too bad.
Catch up on the mixing board is not good.
No.
Here's a question. Any recollections on your piece?
Rectilinear. Yeah, Lieb. Lieb also was very inspiring to me. At some point, he would say, write some shit we can play unison after some free stuff. Right ahead. Short. Like that. So I did. It's like 8 bars. It's the shortest thing I wrote, but it's very effective. And after you finish playing the head, it leads you right into an improvisation, or you can play any kind of a free improvisation and end with rectilinear. And it's also neutral. Rectilinear, what does it mean? It's a four-sided object. Flat. But it works. And it's minimal writing. Minimal writing.
Harry has another comment here.
Oh, Harry. Passion with Spiggy. Well, this is a good way to end. If somebody asked me what's my favorite record that I'm on, ask me.
Richie, what's your favorite album that you're on?
Passion. Zbigniew Seifert. This was a one-off record with Zbigniew, who was really the true contemporary jazz violinist. He heard Train in Krakow when he was a kid and studying classical violin from Tchaikovsky. And that was the end. He was excellent, and that was the end of his interest in classical music. He heard Train live. No, he heard him in Warsaw. That's right. And he loved Train and McCoy, but was able to get the sound. And he actually transcribed some stuff. But it sounded so different on the violin. No one had ever done it before him on the violin. Plus, besides that, he was a great Polish spirit. He had a burning heart, so much passion. He died at the age of 33 because he smoked 3 packs of Gauloise every day since he was 11.
Wow.
He couldn't stop smoking. He was even smoking in a cancer ward. Anyway, Passion was the last record he did. And it was with myself and Jack DeJohnette, Eddie Gomez, Nana Vasconcelos, and Sco. And the first chair chamber orchestra from the New York Philharmonic. It's an amazing CD. Was never made into a CD. Figure that out. But you can get it. It's on YouTube. His compositions, his writing for the orchestra, is the most phenomenal record. I still put it on. I get shivers. I get chills. The intensity. Jack was playing so loud that I had to put him in another room. It's just unbelievable. Eddie is holding the whole thing down. Sco was so young. He stayed up the whole night before because he had to play unison with the violin. Guitar and violin sounds like a disaster. It sounded great. Anyway, if you really want to have an experience, check out on YouTube. You can't buy it, I think. It's out of print. Passion, Zbigniew Seifert. It's a very emotional moment. And he died 2 months after. I wrote Elm for him. And he was the real contemporary jazz violinist. They all took from him. Jean-Luc Ponty, Didier Lockwood, Michael Urbaniak, they all took from him. And he didn't get credit because he died. And the Passion is nobody know about it. And they know about it in Poland. But he was also a genius, incredible spirit.
Wow. Well, listen,
Bye-bye.
I'm thrilled that people get to have a taste of what I've enjoyed for almost 3 years with you. It's been my education and my pleasure working with you and picking your brain and hearing your rants and all the wonderful interaction that we've had.
Rants?
So, yeah. Yeah, even some of the emails I wake up to, I get
Yep.
past them.
Yeah, me
So,
too.
yeah.
Thanks, Phil.
So I thank you much, my friend.
Oh,
You can see from the comments that this has been enjoyed by a lot of people, and
can
I
I
hope people.
can I keep all these comments like when we go? Will they still be here?
They're going to be on YouTube. Yes, you will see them on YouTube because this is a YouTube video now.
So it'd be right on YouTube right now.
Right on,
Like
right on YouTube.
solid. Okay.
All right, my friend. So, the next book we write, we'll do another one of these.
All right. Thanks to everybody that listened, and thanks for all your comments. And see you when we see you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Richie. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
How do I get out?